She had a PhD, she had a postdoc, she had years of research experience, and she still had no idea what came next. Sounds familiar, right? Stay with me because by the end of this episode, you will know exactly what she did to become an AI engineer in healthcare. And trust me, it's more doable than you think. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Smartdom PhD podcast. I'm Dr. Rima, and today I have someone who is very, very special to me. She was actually one of the very first clients who I got to work with, and today she's here to share her story. My guest today is Dr. Lavanya, and she went all the way from being a PhD and postdoc at Sweden to joining in a role as an AI engineer at India, which many computational biologists might not consider. So, in this episode and in this conversation, she's going to tell us what actually changed, what she had to unlearn, and what you need to know if you were sitting where she was once. Lavanya, I'm so glad you're here. With that, Lavanya, we're going to jump straight into the first question as to if you go back to 2024, 23, when you were struggling with, I don't know what's next, and now where you are, and now that you had that journey, what would you say about, you know, uh, not having that anxiety? How would you treat the whole thing very differently now that you have the knowing that, oh, with my PhD degree, I can be here? How would that change for you if you had to go back and do it again, the career transition?
Um, so I think I'll take the keyword that you said on clarity. Okay, so immediately after I finished my academic journey, what I was struggling a lot with, whether I want to be in academia or move to something else. And if I want to move to something else, what is that something else? Because a part of me maybe wanted to be in the field I was still in, and but also wanted to see what else is out there. And I think most of we get that feeling because we become so niched in our own sectors. We basically become one of those people with like side glasses on. So we don't have that bandwidth to understand where all we can apply our own skill sets. Um, and more importantly, even if we have peers who have gone into different areas of career paths post their PhDs, we don't know how to do that jump ourselves. So I think I was kind of in a similar position, not having that clarity, not knowing how to go into something else, or not even sure what my worth is right now. And I it took me a while, and of course, like training with you took a lot of took a lot of patience and also hard work on my end to get to that level where now I'm feeling much more relaxed. At least now I understand where all I can sort of use my skills parallelly, not just in my own field, but think about where alternative career growths can happen. And in that moment, I think when it comes to that kind of a career track, I'm a little bit more relaxed and more less anxious than when what I was in 2024, 2023.
Okay. Lavanya, before getting into the details of your journey, we are going to first understand why did you at all choose PhD? Was it really out of curiosity, or is it that you really wanted to do PhD? What was the reason for you choosing PhD?
Uh, to be honest, I often ask that question to myself, like, why did I choose this, especially now?
Yeah.
And especially afterwards, I was done with the PhD. And I really don't have that kind of a clear picture, but I do remember that when I was doing my master's, I was struggling with this question a lot.
Hmm.
Even then, I was wondering, should I go for an MBA? Because I thought, MBA, the skills that you need, or the kind of, like, let's say, managerial or kind of task that you have, maybe more beneficial for me and also the kind of personality I have. And I remember struggling with this thought for a year, thinking about, pros and cons, about doing something else or going for a PhD or doing an MBA or trying to go into the workforce directly. Um, I think somewhere towards the end of my master's, I realized that MBA was something I could always do. I mean, it's not a track that is going anywhere. Um, Secondly, I also wanted to then take some time to explore beyond um, what I'm currently doing or what I was doing. Because I had this feeling that even with the masters, and my masters was more in like biological sciences, like major in biological sciences and research oriented fields. I think the scope, especially in India, I felt was too low. Like the kind of challenging jobs or maybe like more intellectually stimulating jobs, I should say, would be not that great immediately after masters. And at the same time, I think I had this thing that I wanted to go into something which is more translational. So I wanted something that I'm working and I can see where in the healthcare pipeline or where in the clinical sector my knowledge or my work is being translated into, and how is that actually impacting people. So I thought that, and I remember still giving myself that challenge that if in a year of when I started writing my applications, if I don't land the kind of PhD I want, I would then shift my focus into going for an MBA or going for a work according to what happens in that year. And I focused that year only looking for PhDs, and I was very sure that I want to do my PhD outside India, by the way. So I
Yeah.
focused myself for PhDs outside India, but I was very strict on the kind of projects that I was applying for. And they were all like where I could do maybe a bit of bio, bit of maths. So something like involves both wet lab and dry lab combination. Something that has more maybe working directly with clinical information or clinical data, or working in a way that the project is direct translation. So some sort of disease or therapeutic area, or working on some sort of drug development process, things like that. So then I think just by that, I got lucky to come across a program in Sweden, and I applied for it, and through several interview rounds got cleared. And in a way, I was like, I think that's how I said like, yeah, I will go for PhD, because I was getting an international exposure, something that I always wanted. B, I knew I was going into projects that had more, like I was directly working with clinical data sets and clinical drug work. So I knew that there is some impact direct I can see with the patients. We would be working hand in hand with the hospitals, with the doctors who are building these clinical trials. And it was something that involved not just like wet lab work, which I got a lot of exposure during my masters, but also working more on the computational side. So that gave me a chance to sort of evolve my research instinct. And that just made me say yes to the program and go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On that note, a follow-up question is, Lavanya, many a times it happens that people do want to go outside India for their PhD because of the exposure, which changes them in a very good way. And I don't know if there's any disadvantages associated with it. Maybe you can share with it. But my question is, now that you had to come back to India, right, after being a good 5, 6 years being in Sweden, there was an entire shift in the ecosystem that you lived in Sweden and in India, right? So many PhDs are scared. What will be the working culture be like? And I don't know, like, I'll again be able to fit into that mindset. So, how important was that shift? How important was it for you also at the point you were making the transition to consider that point? I know you were worried about it. So, how is it now? Like, you have made the shift. What do you see changed in India, and what do you feel about the working culture at India?
Yes. So I have to say that's a very valid worry,
Yeah.
because I know that I was struggling with it. It's
Yeah.
especially like when I was trying to figure out if I should apply to India even. I knew that in the long term I wanted to come and work in the country. So, but I didn't know if I wanted to do it now. Um, so, but I have to say, in a way, after coming back, I feel like it was the right decision. Um, when it comes to work culture, it depends field to field, and it depends even company to company.
Right.
I am lucky to be in a company where, like the current company that I'm in, I'm lucky where the work culture is much more balanced. It's also a European based company, so maybe that makes a difference. But it doesn't mean that we don't have long hours, or we don't have to put the hard work in. That is still there, but it can be different. For example, if you go more into consulting, I did a brief stint in that, and I know that the hours and the kind of rigor that is needed for consulting is much more or
Yeah.
much different.
Yeah.
It depends mostly on the company, I would say, and the place, and also whether it's a product or a consulting or a service based firm.
Yeah.
Recommendation is would be to, if you're worried about this, to just contact a few people in the company and ask about the culture. I mean, I'm sure you can find information on this online,
Yes.
but it's always better to get like the first hand experience.
Yes.
Um,
So I just want to interrupt and just get this confirmation that you can have the same kind of good culture in India too, but that
yes,
depends on the company that you're getting into, right?
yes,
So that should not be a point of botheration.
no,
Having said that, it can also happen that you're working in Europe and the company culture is not that great.
yes, yes,
Agree?
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
it's not location specific. Would
No,
you add to
no.
that?
Yes, I mean, I had when I was like trying to, find jobs, and I was going through informational interviews with a lot of different people.
Yeah.
This was one of the first things we would ask, right? And to understand how the company culture is. And if you think like, if in Europe you're only working like 40 hours a week
Yeah.
in every position,
Yeah.
you're absolutely wrong.
Right. Yeah.
You're gonna have like 70-hour work weeks if you're like in, for example, working in a consulting sector. Or you could even have like I know my seniors, my managers who are Europeans, by the way. I know I've seen them work weekends, and I've seen them work late hours
Hmm.
when it's post their working time.
Hmm.
It all depends on, again, like what your workload is, what your deliverables are.
Right.
So it's not that you're gonna find a bad culture in India and good culture elsewhere.
Right.
It's gonna be the same. It
Yeah.
depends more on how the company itself is. So that's very important.
Yeah.
Like how much value they give to your, let's say, mental well-being and your development.
Hmm.
And then also on your managers and your team.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's again a specific thing. Like they can also make and break it for you.
Right. Right.
Um, so that, yeah, that is what my own observations are.
Okay, we were talking about the long hours of working, right? So we had this community call where I had a PhD from astrophysics from Germany who transitioned into industry. Okay, so according to her, earlier she was like working endlessly in her postdoc job,
Yeah.
and it was like the hours, like she was mentioning that it was like you need sleep. What sleep? Okay, work as much as you can. And now when she's transitioned to industry and seeing that they're being compensated for the
Yeah.
extra hours that they're doing. She's like, oh my God, coming from academia, that's heaven for me. Okay.
Yeah.
So now that you have seen both sides of the coin, academia and industry, can you tell us about the long hours of work or hours of work? What do you feel about it in academia and in industry? The difference, the clear difference.
Mm, I think I think one clear difference is, I would say that long hours again becomes very subjective to where you end up going,
Yeah.
even in industry, right?
Yeah.
So there can be, if you're in a company that has like specific work hours or something like that, and are very strict about how many hours you're working, and if you do extra, you will get compensated. That is there.
Hmm.
And that can be a difference. Like if you're jumping from academia, you can feel that time difference very drastically, and you suddenly feel, oh my God, life is so much better now.
Hmm.
But it can also be very, I would say the main difference,
Hmm.
more than the hours,
Hmm.
my opinion is um, sort of your, let's say, responsibility, if that's the right word,
Hmm.
or what kind of a deliverable or output you're creating, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Because what happens is, like, how do I put this? In a PhD or in a postdoc, you are the one who are building the projects. You are the one who is sort of doing everything, which
Right.
means everything from like management to sometimes even finances to even planning and executing and analyzing, and
End to end everything. Yeah.
you're playing like 1,000 hats in one person.
Yeah.
And at the same time, your result is not guaranteed.
Hmm.
Like if it doesn't work, it's on you, and you end up taking it like it's on you.
Right.
It's not. Um, but that is different in when you're working in a like a more corporate or a more industry setting,
Hmm.
because you're working in a team.
Hmm.
The project is never on you. There is, you are, if it fails, it's because everyone was involved in it and everyone had contributed to some reason, and
Hmm.
it just failed. It's nothing to do with you. You're
Hmm.
still being compensated for the time and effort you're putting into it.
Hmm.
And you kind of like, I would say, not get that much emotionally involved
Hmm.
in the entire process. You understand that it's your work and you have to execute it. You'll put the equal amount of effort, but the hurt is sort of less by the end of it. So
Yeah,
because you know that you're not doing everything, you're no longer like, you know that if some things have to be planned, there's a team sitting and we're all doing it together. We're all going to
right.
plan together. We'll each have our independent roles and independent tasks. We are responsible for finishing those. The final part of whether it succeeds or not depends on everyone. So I would say that is the more important difference in my opinion at the time, because the time you put can be the same across both, but when that kind of like emotional detachment or sort of burden in a way becomes like, it's no longer a make or a break for you now. It's not like your life is dependent on it like it was during your PhD in a postdoc. If it
Right.
doesn't work, I won't get my manuscript. If I won't get my manuscript, I won't complete this thing.
Yeah,
If I
it's
don't get this thing, I can no longer proceed to the next thing. It's
yeah,
not yours anymore.
yeah.
Your job is to finish your part of your work. You have to do all your deliverables, and the bigger picture is on not your headache. You are contributing to a cycle. You're not worried about the entire cycle.
Okay.
And that makes a bigger difference, I would say.
Yes, that's true. I'll come back to one thing that you mentioned was very interesting, that in academia, you think that it's entirely on you, but then you followed it up with a line, but it's not. It's not entirely on you. Now, because you've made the transition, maybe is that a shift in your thought process now? Or you saw it that way previously too when you were actually doing the PhD?
I would say I saw it previously as well.
Okay.
I
And why do
think
you mention that? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I've seen it like across all, let's say, PhD that I've talked to
Hmm.
as well. And like, because I mean, the reality is like the world is changing at a very fast and drastic pace.
Right.
And things that were like, let's say, would give you PhDs 30 years ago is not the same now. So the amount of effort and brain power you have to put,
Hmm.
or the extra things you have to do each time to hit the same level as what maybe 30 years back somebody would have done
Hmm.
is quite different.
Hmm.
And at the same time, I think because I mean technology is playing such a critical role and
Hmm.
it's also changing in every sector. I mean, I can maybe say more in the biology side, right?
Right.
We also have to constantly adapt for it.
Hmm.
But sometimes we don't have, let's say, if so the support system who
Hmm.
are aware of this kind of a change or can support you in that direction.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So I think that kind of a planning or that kind of sort of vision, the broader vision, I
Hmm.
would say is critically not there in academia.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
So that's why I feel like when you're doing a PhD or a postdoc, it almost becomes an isolated environment
Hmm. Hmm.
for working towards your own projects, but there has to be some sort of, let's say, larger planning involved before projects get executed.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, so I think that this has been my experience,
Hmm.
like just like from what I've observed with different projects and different people,
Hmm.
that the rush to publish and perish is
Hmm.
very strong now. And
Right.
that often means that instead of taking a step back and trying to understand if maybe this is not worth doing, we
Hmm.
often overdo and push ourselves to break that boundary.
Yes.
That can be very, very mentally consuming, I have to say, both physically and mentally demanding.
Hmm. Hmm.
And especially for like PhDs and postdoc that are like built, their entire structure is built on this publication system,
Hmm.
can be too much. I mean, and that was one of the reasons I didn't want to be in academia anymore.
Yeah, I think I just want to add to that, emotionally taxing too, right?
Mostly, yeah, so much. Like you're investing so much hours and effort just to
Yeah.
see your projects fail become too much for you after some time.
Right, right. And also, you touched upon some interesting things that because the world is changing so fast, as we are having this conversation, I'll just quickly add this graphic to the conversation where people can see that Claude has recently released a graphic. I'm not sure if you have seen it. That the career runway that we have is the distance between where AI is being used and where it will go. Okay, and by 2030, that's going to change so drastically. So fundamentally, we don't know right now where we are. And I think of all the degrees, say masters, MBA, and PhD, PhD is the most at risk because the number of years we invest is so much higher, right? So, how do you see PhDs who are studying or getting into PhD in 2026? how are you getting the vibe? Like, what are you feeling like in 2030 if they pass out? Where will they be? What do you feel? And is
I
it
mean,
even worth doing PhD in 2026? What do you feel?
I think I'd seen someone, I don't remember who was this, one of these like big AI company CEOs basically saying like PhDs are now worthless, like don't go for them.
I'm glad you're saying that. Yeah. You're
Yeah, and I mean, I have to be honest. I think like even after going through my journey and seeing everything,
hmm,
firstly, if you don't adapt with AI, you definitely are not gonna. It's
survive. Yeah.
gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Even I have to, with all my skills and knowledge now, I have to adapt. So it's not just a you thing; it's a universal process now.
Hmm, hmm, hmm,
Secondly, like I think PhDs have become such a big. I mean, if I had all the skills or the AI stuff that we had when like 7, 8 years ago or something when I was starting my PhD,
hmm.
I could have finished my entire work in 1 year less.
Right. Yeah.
like um like things like I mean I'm a computational scientist, right? So we build pipelines, for example.
Hmm,
And
hmm,
one pipeline can take me anywhere up to 6 to 8 months, even a year, depending on the complexity of my task and things like that.
hmm,
But with like various coding systems like Claude or Copilot or whatever, the
hmm,
same pipeline can be done in like a matter of maybe 1 month
hmm,
max.
hmm,
There is like a drastic sort of consumption
hmm,
that can definitely reduce.
hmm.
But at the same time, it can be a blessing for the PhD students because now they have time to actually innovate.
Right. Yeah.
So if you can make all these AI tools to your advantage, so
Hmm,
like don't waste 6 months on writing a publication, but like see as much as you can automate the entire process,
hmm,
your structures in a way that everything can help you. So like build agents that can help you with reasoning or hypothesis development or whatever. Do a different kinds of analysis for you as fast as possible rather than wasting months or weeks on doing this.
hmm,
You can maybe innovate on a very higher scale,
hmm.
and it gives you an opportunity because the better you do with your innovations and the more, let's say, like the world is revolved around innovations, the more good output you put rather than just worrying about publications and things like that,
Hmm.
the better your chances would be of survival post 2030.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, but that, yeah, I mean, that's my take. Like, it should be. But at the same time, I think, like, for people who want to do a PhD,
Hmm,
I would recommend to understand why you're doing a PhD.
hmm, hmm,
Because honestly speaking, I think now after doing it, I think it should only be done for people who want to go in the academic sector.
hmm, hmm,
Uh,
hmm.
if you're
I have
already
to stop you right there because I've been holding on. I've been holding on to myself. You are just on point right now to be asked this question that whatever you're doing in your current job, Lavanya, okay, do you think you needed a PhD for it or you could have done it without a PhD? What do you think?
in my job,
Yeah.
I'm working now is more as a scientist. So in
Yeah.
my scenario, I mean, you could do without a PhD,
Hmm.
but you would need many more years of experience
Mm-hmm.
to reach the same level I am now.
Hmm.
This I also say because we know we have, I've seen people in the sector without PhDs, but they required like maybe 10 years before they could have the same role.
Okay. Okay. So you're saying the title, the degree helps you build credibility faster? Or what is the reason it's coming? Like, where is it coming from? Is it helping you function faster? Or is it because of the title, you're being pushed through the academic, through the corporate ladder faster? What is it?
No, I would not say that. I don't think that's the thing. I think it depends on the role you are in.
Okay.
Your role involves, let's say, more of a higher order of thinking skills,
Hmm.
which means like thinking in a more, let's say, convoluted or more abstract manner
Hmm.
that leads to some sort of innovative um, outcome.
Hmm.
It could be in terms of like software development also. It could be in anything like you're doing, even if you're a lab scientist for that matter.
Hmm.
Um, your PhD has sort of trained you for that because you're
Right.
constantly trying to solve solutions, solve problems. So you're constantly thinking,
Yeah.
what is it that I can do to change this? What is going wrong? What could be the variables involved that could
Hmm.
completely dissolve or destroy my experiment?
Hmm.
Or what is how I can make this process much faster and efficient? So
Hmm.
that thinking skills
Hmm.
is, I think, more important for any PhD person. In general, like what I think you also had said in the beginning, if you're a PhD person, you can wear many hats and you can do a lot of things because you've been
Right.
trained in so many different directions.
Yeah.
That adaptability and flexibility is what is beneficial to you.
Hmm.
Now it depends on what role you are in.
Hmm.
You can show different aspects of the skills you've developed, even if you're in completely doing something which is not related to your PhD. You can still adapt yourself very fast to that environment because you're used to constantly thinking on that direction.
Right.
That is the benefit that the PhD is giving you. It doesn't help you with climbing the corporate ladder. It's not like my PhD or anything is going to give me a leg up. It is
Okay.
just helping me do
I
my work in a much more efficient way.
Yeah, I that again intrigues me because I've heard this from a couple of my other friends in the industry. This has been their experience. I want to check your opinion on the same. They told me that while the PhD hasn't helped them as such to do a job in a way that they couldn't have done it without a PhD,
Right.
okay? But what it has helped in is when they go for clients meeting, like these are like MSL roles they are in, and when they go for clients meeting and when they introduce themselves as Mr. X versus Dr. X, they suddenly see the credibility going up. The client starts trusting them. I don't know if you have experienced the same. Anything as such, Lavanya?
Honestly speaking, I mean, the position I'm in, we have a lot of doctors around me, so it doesn't really
Right,
make any difference. None of us introduce ourselves as doctors.
right. Yeah.
So I think this might be more like specific to the fact that they're MSLs and they're interacting more with doctors.
Yeah.
That value, that kind of a tag. It means that you've also, spent your time going through some very, very extreme hard work, the
Hmm.
same as they have when they were doing their own doctorates.
Yes.
So maybe that sort of rapport gets built up for them.
Yeah.
In my experience, I haven't really seen any difference in whether or not.
Hmm. So it
Um,
may be very role specific,
yeah,
right?
it's very role specific. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Now, expanding on the same conversation, you see that you have evolved since 2024. You went into industry, now it's 2026. Okay. How has been your learning curve, Lavanya, versus your learning curve in academia? Like, if you had these kind of resources and everything, would your academic learning curve be much higher, steeper? How is it? Or can we at all compare these two?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I think in my personal experience, what I was lacking in academia was like a very let's say environment that was similar to what I was doing
Hmm.
and having the exact support structure that I needed. And maybe many of us face that in many ways.
Hmm.
I think when it comes to what I'm doing corporate setting, I know that I'm now in a team
Hmm.
where everyone has a similar background or experience. So they have like knowledge in a very, let's say, varied fields.
Hmm.
But then at the same time, you're kind of in the same field. So you know that um, there is some sort of like if you're struggling, if there's a sport, you know where to go
Hmm.
and find this, like get some help
Hmm.
uh, for your project or for whatever question
Hmm.
or that you're struggling with. So I think like, and I think this observation is more on an individual experience level. I don't think this applies to everyone, to be honest. But
Okay.
in a way, I think I liked my PhD experience,
Hmm.
but I think now I love my corporate experience more for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if that answered your question.
No, my question was your learning curve, like the
I
kind
learned.
of things that you worked on incorporating the just 2 years versus, 5 years of PhD.
Yeah. So I think for sure there was. I mean, I learned quite a lot, but
Hmm.
in reality, for me, I would say my learning was equally high during my PhD because I jumped from being like a lab biologist to being a computational scientist.
Hmm.
So for
Hmm.
me, also there was a steep learning curve.
Hmm.
Now this is less steeper of a learning curve, but it's much more. Um, uh, I would say much more exciting in a way because I'm learning different things.
Right. Yeah.
Not learning the same like my area of specific work, but I'm learning more about understanding how companies work,
Hmm.
understanding what in my case it's pharma, so understanding how drugs
Hmm.
or how products healthcare products come to the market, what is involved in the whole process,
Hmm.
what can make and break these things,
Hmm.
the value that we have to think about in terms of patient safety, in terms of how impactful our work can be in the cascade.
Hmm.
I think that's where the critical difference lies.
Hmm.
I would
Hmm.
not say the learning curve learning curve is like different. It's kind of the same, but it's just different in the way of what you're learning, if that makes
Okay. Okay. So right now you're more on the business side of things. Correct me if I'm wrong. And also you can see the direct impact of your work. Is that right,
yes,
Lavanya?
yes.
Yeah.
I can understand more clearly, like if I don't finish this,
Hmm. What is the impact?
so yeah. And at the same time, like being in the more again scientific area in the pharma industries, we're
Hmm.
still innovating because we have to innovate internally quite a lot, right? We have to
Right.
make the
Yeah.
process better, we have to make it efficient, so
Hmm.
the drugs or whatever come out to the markets faster.
Hmm.
And to make products much more safer for all our for all our patients,
Hmm.
basically. So now I know directly if I don't get this thing done,
Hmm.
how it can impact, let's say, the whole process of
Hmm.
the care product,
Hmm.
and that can have a very good and bad impact. That's very that's very evident once
Yeah.
you're.
Yeah.
And again, the culture is not in terms of like publication, which is just a piece of paper. In all honesty, it's
Right.
a piece of paper.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter because you're now only worried or you now only care that what you're producing or what your research is producing has a very strong impact
Hmm.
on the product you're developing, which has a stronger impact on society and life in general.
Right.
Um, Whereas in academia, you're more focused towards finishing this piece of research so you can publish something.
Hmm.
And it may not actually lead to anything because it might be one of those 99% of papers that nobody really cares about or reads about. It might not be that global breakthrough that everybody wants.
Hmm.
So I think that becomes a very critical piece of difference.
Hmm. Hmm. In your opinion, again, Lavanya, because as you said, and all the other members in the community who transitioned into industry, they said industry, it's deliver, 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 right? You cannot say that, let me go back and read papers and come back, right? So when it's deliver, 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 so in your opinion, who should be the people who should aim for industry versus academia?
Okay, so I think uh, yeah, I mean, like you said, industry works on a lot on deliveries, but there is a reason for it. It's because you are working as a team. You're working on even as a team. You're working part of a bigger, let's say, cycle. If you're not doing your task, you're going to break the cycle. As simple as that. Um, Academia, you're always working a bit more. Let's say you are doing everything on your own, but the impact is also on your own. Like the publications, it's all if you're a first author, second author, whichever, they are a plus for you, and maybe it affects the co-authors, but the impact, but that let's say the direct consequence is faced by you. So, and that's not the case often in industries. I mean, there also at times publication is an impact, and especially in your scientific sector, it makes a lot of difference. But again, it's more about what you're doing that is improving whatever that company is working on. So if it's a product, if it's a service, whichever it is, that is more impactful. So if you sort of dissociate from this, let's say, what is happening to me or what am I getting out of it, to being like, I can work as a team and deliver this thing because we have to do it together.
Hmm.
That mentality or that adaptability is very important.
Hmm. Hmm.
So people, and I know even I struggle from it. I'm not gonna deny it because we, as an academic, you're trained to be like, oh, how can I, think about more on this, or how can I come up with something new or more fancier or more different. Here you have to be like, what is the most efficient way of getting this done
Hmm.
and faster,
Hmm.
and then given time, I can refine it. You can propose that also in your projects. It's not that you can't, but you have to have that very clear picture till when I can finish certain tasks.
Hmm.
And you will struggle with it even if you've decided to move to corporates. But if you're definitely not someone who can deal with this, then you shouldn't come to corporate sectors. You should stick to academia.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, the other aspect that I was thinking about is that you, as an academic, you have a lot of freedom where you want to see your projects go.
Hmm.
So you might have joined a lab that's working in a specific area, and maybe that's sort of limited. But then again, in that, you have a lot of flexibility of how you move things around, and if you're able to get the funding, try out different projects or different things.
Hmm.
Or you might be more restrictive because you're working, even if you're more involved in, you were part of, you've learned something previously, and now you've jumped to a new sector altogether.
Hmm.
Maybe you miss that those research questions.
Hmm.
You're restricted because you have to again complete certain processes of the task that have been given to you.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean you can't venture out.
Hmm.
Can do it, especially if you're in a company which is much more flexible in their research settings, where you can talk to people, talk to other groups, see what you can contribute. But then again, you have to balance those things out. You have to put more time in what task has been assigned to you or is part of your project and your developmental plans, and you have to execute them before you go into these extra activities.
Right. Right. Yeah.
That difference has to be there.
Right.
If you're someone who cannot tolerate that, or like, no, I want to, focus on this project. I cannot live without understanding how this thing works, and I have to figure out the mechanisms behind this problem. Don't come to industry, because you will not always have that kind of a freedom. You have to start, so you can be more focused on what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. I can add to that because having worked as a scientist myself, I know it was always the thing that impacts the business. You need to be having this super focused thought process as to how can you contribute to that faster and get that problem solved. But as you mentioned, we also have this 20% time allotted to exploratory work that might happen in the future. And this is where your time management skills comes into the picture and your prioritization skills comes into the picture, right, Lavanya?
Correct.
And here again, I'm going to switch gears and come back to career transition. Right now that we have spoken so much about how life is inside the industry, I want to ask you, when you were also struggling with translating your value on the resume, now you see that you were missing out so many aspects of you, right, in the resume. Now, again, on the other side, being on the other side, what were the assumptions you were making about industry that you thought industry might not value this? Why should I put it in the resume? But then you realize, oh, this needs to be there.
So, I mean, honestly, I think it depends on the position you're applying and the role you're applying for. Like, this is what people say, curating your CVs, and not just people, you also say that about you have to curate your CVs to fit the position.
Yeah.
It's perfectly true. Now that I've sat on the other side and I've taken interviews of different roles and position, even roles which are higher than mine.
Okay.
Right.
That's interesting. So we'll have some insights from you on that too.
Yeah. I have seen that the values are mostly like what is in the job description. You have to give me exact examples of how you fit that role.
Right.
So if you're like, it's a plus if you show other things always. But it is your main criteria for like having your CV or having yourself pass through the interview process is first the things that you've been asked on your job description. Secondly, it has been that we do value quite a lot on the soft skills that people actually negate. So this includes thinking like a leader, thinking like learning how to do multitasking or managing tasks. This also includes communication.
Right.
We have rejected people during the interview process who were very poor communicators, by the way.
But technically very skilled, right?
Technically extremely skilled. And if someone was looking only based on technical, they'll be hired like that. But
I just want to stop you there, and I want you to quickly, can you please break it down for us? Because when it comes to communication skills, people think it's about speaking good English, which is not at all true, anywhere close to that, right? So can you just give a quick example of the person had great technical skills, but the communication was, not at par, and the team couldn't see the value, and they didn't get the offer?
One critical thing, and I would say that this is, I have to say again for those listening, or this is not something that is a you problem. Many of us, even I have done it for that matter. But one very critical form of communication is answer the question that has been asked.
Right.
Which is so simple. But we have failed. I have failed. I have failed interviews where I went off the board. I know it. You also know it. But this is such a small thing that we have asked you a particular question.
Yeah.
Time to think about it. There's no harm in asking, okay, give me 10 seconds to just think about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Formulate what you're trying to say and then say it in crisp or in a very effective dialogue. You don't need to say 10,000 words to deliver the same thing. I have seen people talk about it. If you've asked something on the technical, it's like, oh no, this is and then going to a different tangent altogether.
Right.
It's not the question I asked.
Right.
Like sometimes, people are trying to be over smart in that approach, like they want to showcase extra, which
Exactly.
is
Yeah.
great. You can
Yeah.
show that. But
Yeah.
first, answer the question asked, and
Right.
then you show that.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Right? So
Yeah.
there are ways of doing this. You have to be smart about it,
Hmm.
but it's a very simple trick. If the person is asking you a question, either say I don't know, or come up with a smart answer, or explain first what it is. And if you don't know, you can also say I don't know this,
Hmm.
but this
Hmm.
is the case. End
Hmm.
of story.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so this is like a very big thing for us.
Hmm.
The second thing also, apart from communication, is, and again, it's a very company specific thing, but at least in my scenario, I think we often hire as teams.
Hmm.
So we look for people who would fit that team culture.
Right.
So that also makes a lot of difference.
Yes.
Um, and there is, yeah, I mean, there's no way of like planning for it, to be honest. That this is just something that happens. But
But you
I
can
think again,
research it. I guess you can research it well through the company websites, or if there's any YouTube videos or anything where you get a glimpse of how the culture might be.
yes, but also your interpersonal skills comes into picture here.
Right. Yes.
Like how open you are,
Hmm.
how good you can talk to everyone, how empathetic you are to the
Hmm.
scenario or situation.
Hmm.
All of these things play a big role.
Hmm.
So, just for anyone, technically, you have to be sound, of course. There's no denying it, because that's the first thing that will get you into the door in the first place.
Hmm.
But during the interview, all of these things also matter.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and also, as PhDs, we are many times scared to negotiate, right?
Yes.
Negotiate our salaries. But now that you are on the other side of the table, what do you say to every PhD who might be career transitioning? Should they negotiate or should they not negotiate their salary?
Always. I mean, I am not in the salary discussion, so I cannot say that I have ever done, negotiations with them, but been on the other side, like trying to
Right.
negotiate it myself.
Yes.
I can just say that you should. Like, what's the worst case that can happen? You
Hmm.
should, I mean, do it in a way that you've researched everything properly and you're aware of what your worth is.
Hmm.
And then try to, explain your situation or your side of the story and see if it's working.
Hmm.
If it works, great. If it doesn't, then think about what additional value that company is bringing for you, even if your, let's say, cost is low.
Hmm.
Maybe it's a company, that is very big on paper. Uh, that's going to get you more, let's say, validity or something like that. Or it's something, or a company that you wanted to be a part of.
Hmm.
There are many pros and cons to everything.
Hmm.
So it's not only always the money. You have to balance out all the aspects
Absolutely.
together.
Yes. Yes.
But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't negotiate. You
Yes.
should know your worth, and you should
Yeah.
always try, because maximum the thing that can happen is a no.
Yeah. And
And
the offer might also be rescinded, but that can happen only when you communicate really wrong,
yes,
right? Yes.
yes,
So the
yes,
communication part comes over here as well, right?
yes, yes,
Lavanya.
yeah.
Now let's ask about, say, if a PhD in 2026 is trying to transition into healthcare or pharmaceutical, right? What are the skills you would suggest them to develop so that they're more relevant for the industry?
So
I know this is a broad question.
yeah.
Maybe for your kind of expertise, you being a computational scientist, and anyone with life sciences kind of degrees, what do you think are some skills sets that they can upskill themselves with, which would be a good attractive candidate to industry to the
So
industry?
I mean, first of all, again, it's very role specific, very
Right.
position, and again, sector specific,
So
right?
that comes back to clarity, right?
Yeah,
Have
yeah.
clarity. Yeah,
So
yeah.
firstly, I can talk about maybe differences, like things that can be different.
Hmm.
So firstly, it should be like, if the position is asking for certain technical skills,
Hmm.
be aware of how good you are in them.
Hmm.
If you're not, if there are certain things, if you're seeing constantly that it's coming up on similar roles and you don't know that technology,
Hmm.
figure out a way of like getting some sort of certification or do a quick course that you can learn from it quickly.
Hmm.
Um, More than that, these are again very sector and area specific. But again, all of that is one place. Your soft skills play a big role.
Hmm.
If you don't have experience communicating with people, because your entire career, you'll be communicating. You'll be talking to your managers. You'll be talking to other groups. You'll be talking to stakeholders of your project. This can be both internal stakeholders. It can also be external stakeholders.
Right.
So
Let's stop you
learning,
there for a moment and just quickly explain internal stakeholders is anybody within the company and external stakeholders is anybody outside the company. Some
correct.
PhDs might not be aware of it. Yes.
Yeah. So, if, for example, if like what you said about MSLs, right, talking to HCPs are
Right.
health professionals.
Yes.
That is an example of external stakeholders.
Hmm.
Or if you're in a consulting service, you'll be talking to your clients.
Hmm.
In all scenario, you will be talking to people,
Hmm.
and you have to figure out how to communicate the
Hmm.
proper.
Hmm.
And this is a skill that comes to practice, I have to say. So if you've been in a PhD where you have been constantly going into presentations, you've been constantly going to let's say conferences where you're presenting, or you're constantly talking to people, great. You're already, done quite a lot. Now you have to just figure out how to make your delivery crisp and nice.
Hmm.
Maybe.
Hmm.
But for those who don't,
Hmm.
then start working on this.
Hmm.
And again, there's nothing like don't take any of this personally, because I struggle with communication even a lot myself.
Hmm.
Especially because I'm like a computational scientist. I tend to speak a bit more technically,
Hmm.
even when I'm trying to communicate to stakeholders. So to constantly tell myself to change my ways of talking.
I
Um,
want to interrupt you again over there. And when you're saying constantly tell yourself to change your ways of talking, I believe by that you mean that making the words that you're using more understandable by the person who is on the other end receiving the information
correct,
that you're sharing, right?
correct,
Yeah.
correct. Because this is a very critical thinking or critical, let's say, process.
Yeah.
You being able to explain your work
Hmm.
to other kinds of people who are not in the same line of work
Hmm.
is very important,
Hmm.
because you're talking to, let's say, if you're talking to business people who have no idea of your science and don't really care about it,
Hmm.
you need to go into their area of language, which is
Right.
metrics, which
Right.
is how is this impactful or what is it bringing to them.
Yes.
If you're talking to other, let's say, scientists, but not in your sector, could be like I'm talking to a biologist or a chemistry person or something like that.
Hmm.
Then to figure out how do I communicate the same problem,
Hmm.
but in a very maybe different and non-technical manner.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Right here, I want to add, yeah, right here, I want to add again. We have been talking about this a lot. I create videos around this. It's always what's in it for me. Like
correct,
whoever you're talking to, answer what's in it for them, and you will have their attention.
correct. Yeah, I completely agreed with that. But
Yeah.
it is a skill that comes to practice. I have seen people who joined and in a year have been practicing and are very good communicators. I know one of my own seniors who's very good at this. Very, she knows how to create really impactful statements and really communicate with the clients in a very nice fashion. This is something I'm still learning.
Hmm.
But this is
And
a
it
process
always
one.
pays you forward, right?
Yes,
In
yes,
ways that you may not foresee in the moment,
yes,
but it always adds up, compounds, and pays you in ways you cannot comprehend in the
correct,
future.
correct. So coming back to what skills one should learn in
Yes.
2026,
Yes.
focus on your communication, focus on your presentation skills, on your interpersonal skills as well.
Hmm.
Um,
Any specific tool you want to add? Any specific tool? Knowing the fact that the tools are evolving so fast, any AI tool are evolving so fast, how do you suggest that PhDs stay abreast of what's happening? Because inside industry, what's happening, they might not know, but still
yeah,
how can you be at the top of what you're doing?
honestly, again, very, very area dependent.
Yeah.
There is no, I cannot think of a specific skill tool. I
But if
can
you're
just say,
talking about just say computational biology, would you suggest the PhDs to, hey, please make sure you are conversant with this tool? Anything you would suggest?
I mean, I would say then you have to be your more than any tool,
Yeah.
you have to be aware of what tools exist to make your work easier.
Okay.
That is true for all scenarios.
Okay.
So even if you're like in a non, I would say, let's say if you're even in MSL, right? You have to think about, and especially now with what AI tools exist out there. But one, actually, sorry, not about the AI tools. I'll just take a small divergence, or I'll just divert a bit here, which is because remember that AI tools within a company are in a closed environment, so you might not have access to all the tools that are available in the market.
Right.
So that doesn't mean that you have to know everything. You can say one or two things, especially if it's there in the job description. But knowing about how AI can augment your life is very important. In a computational science role like mine, I think, we work more like in pipeline delivery and fixing automation processes and building. In my case, it's also like building AI models and things like that. So in my scenario, I have to be abreast of what development is happening in this area. But at the same time, I have to also, like, again with AI, like how we can use AI for coding purposes or improving the workflow purposes. This is something I have to be aware of. But more than that, let's say data management tools. How, especially if you're working like with data that I am, where in the data processing pipeline are the critical errors certain tools can solve. For example, there are workflow management tools like SnakeMake and Nextflow, right? These are simple tools that allow your pipeline to work in a much more efficient manner. These can make a difference. This is very sector specific. This is specific to my position and role. So these things are important. But I cannot say that there is one universal tool that anyone has to be aware of. It's like go through the job description, see if there's any tool, don't know it, learn it as soon as possible. As a PhD, the plus point that you have is you are very fast at learning, extremely fast at learning. Exactly. I have learned software in less than 6 hours and produced dashboards within the same day. Where I know people were like, have told me that, how do you do this in 6 hours? It took me 4 months to figure this out. And all I could think was like, how can it take you 4 months to figure this out? It is not that difficult.
Right. And I remember you sharing this inside the community call also. And now I have last three questions, Lavanya. First is now, again, because you've made the transition, on a scale of 1 to 10, if you had to rate it, how difficult it is?
Transition?
Yes, transition to industry.
Can I say 100? See, it is no doubt difficult.
Yes.
There is no easy way, to be honest. It is, it is a lot of, it can be quite difficult because especially if you have not worked on building your networks, if you've not worked on your, let's say, CV, especially like I've seen people in academia producing academic CVs even when we get it for review. So I can very clearly say that not knowing the difference between these kind of things can have a big impact. But it doesn't mean that it's not impossible. It is difficult nowadays also because of how the world is going and the kind of there is like job market has been going a little bit down in the last few years. I mean, that was also one of the reasons I was facing difficulty, but it is not impossible. You just have to sort of continue it, fight through it, and in the meantime keep upskilling. And then there are, of course, coaches like you, Rima, who can help us in that journey of figuring out where we are lacking.
Okay, but then let's come back to you. And the follow-up question on this is, because this is a hard journey, as you mentioned, it's like you wanted to put 100, not 10. Okay, 10 times of how hard it is. People want to give up, right, Lavanya? So I'm sure you also had that feeling, oh, this is not going to work for me. Let me give up.
Oh, I had so much feeling of this.
But now looking back, you can connect the dots, as they say that you can connect dots only when you look, like in hindsight, you can connect the dots. Now, when you connect the dots, what is the one step that you thought, if I had stopped here, this wouldn't have happened? Or what is the one step you kept doing, one action you kept taking that made this happen today? Despite this thought, that it's not going to work out.
It was quite hard because I knew that I wanted, like, I did not want to, I wanted to go towards industry and sort of change a bit in what my experience was right now. I was struggling, of course, at that point with understanding if I actually wanted to even go into industry, because that was also a thought, right? Like doing academia versus industry, wanting to do more and not able to get that clarity. Also, even if in industry, what role to go for, what to do for, all of these things. So all of them were emotionally and mentally very taxing. And I'm sure pretty much everyone who has been either working for this transition or will aim to do this transition in a few years will go through this process. I think what helped, or not helped in a way, but what I didn't stop doing was still continue to upskill myself. For example, knowing let's say one of the areas of interest for me was also management consulting, like
Right.
not going for scientific, but going into consulting areas.
Right.
But then that meant like there were things that I don't know about the field. So then what I did was do additional courses in the consulting field just to understand what that world would be like a mini MBA almost, but just to get an idea or flavor that would help me build
Exactly.
my case works or build my interviews in a proper way.
That
So
also made you aware of the lingo they use, right? That
yes,
is something
yes,
that you had, yeah,
yes.
used in your
And it's
interview.
not that you're going to become 100% on it because, of course, you're
Right.
not from the field. Don't even expect that you can do that.
Hmm.
But you will not feel underconfident. That's what is important. Like,
Right.
even when I was struggling with, even in scientific positions that you would apply for, there were things
Hmm.
maybe that I don't know.
Hmm.
Yes, I mean, I've also bombed interviews.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean you stop. You learn from each experience. So like some process told me, okay, this is where I went wrong. This
Hmm.
is where delivery was wrong, or this is
Hmm.
where I realized maybe I was not a good fit. Whatever the case is, like there are some things that you learn from each scenario. So you have to kind of like put each of the puzzles together and just put everything in one go and keep working on it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Eventually things will happen. Like
Hmm.
eventually you'll start getting interview calls and you'll start you'll get calls for
Hmm.
you'll get offer letters and things like that. It'll work out, but it means that you have to keep constantly pushing through and working through
Hmm.
all the dark moments.
Yes. Okay. On that note, this is our last question for you today, Lavanya, which is I have seen your journey from 2024 to 2026. Now that I'm talking to you, I see the immense transformation in you. And now from 2026 to say 5 years from now, 2031. Okay. How do you see your journey evolving? And what is one fear that's there in you right now?
um, yeah, honestly, I have not really thought about the next 5 years because right now I'm just trying to live in the moment. Because as a PhD, we've always been thinking about what next, what to do ahead. So now I'm like, okay, I won't worry about this process anymore.
Hmm.
But I think like, I mean, at least in the area that I am now, it's quite interesting. I'm enjoying the kind of projects that I'm handling and the kind of work we're doing.
Hmm.
So at least for now, I think I'll continue for this for I don't know some more years, several years. Let's see.
Hmm.
Um, I I think I honestly have no idea what to say about this because I haven't really thought much on this, but
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I just want to continue now.
Okay.
And
I
then
want you to talk
let's see
about your
where I am.
one fear, one fear. Okay. With the AI thing taking over, everyone is fearing it, right? That's me too included. There is a mixed feeling of both fear and excitement. The scale keeps tipping, sometimes it's towards excitement, sometimes it's towards fear. So it's a very mixed feeling. Where are you in terms of that? Because you're inside the industry where you see things going.
I mean, for sure, AI is a big thing. Like we ourselves, like we have to upskill. We have to ensure how we can use AI in our day-to-day work and how we can adapt to it.
Hmm.
There is no doubt. Like if you're not working and if you don't know anything about AI, get some basic knowledge
Hmm.
or even on toolkits that you can use. You don't need to be an AI engineer for that purpose, but just like have a basic understanding of what you can achieve with AI.
Hmm.
Um, it can help you automate your work quite faster.
Hmm.
Can help you in doing things that might have taken you 6 months and boil it down to 1 or 2 months even. That means that you can handle more and do more work than what you did before. Um, as to the impact on jobs, honestly speaking, there can be because there are various way it can automate a
Hmm.
lot of things.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't know. Even I'm scared at times. So I'm in the same boat as being scared of what's going to happen in 5 years. Maybe that's the answer of what my fear was as well.
Right.
Um, but I think like I mean, what can you do, right? You have to just learn with the process now.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I think
Hmm.
as long as you're like learning and seeing where you can adapt your current skills into other positions, I'm sure I think AI will also come up with new kind of job market or job scenarios. It might be very volatile though while that happens in the next 10 years,
Hmm.
but we have to be kind of ready and be ahead. So
Hmm.
keep yourself abreast of what's happening now, and then as soon as those things start changing, we learn and we just work on that process as fast as you can. So you're ready for the next move or the next trend.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, I also really don't have many suggestions on this. I'm with you on
Right.
the boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only thing I can say. Keep abreast.
Yes, all right, Lavanya, that was great. Thank you for sharing those insights. For me, the biggest takeaway is, of course, AI is changing things in a ways that we cannot predict right now, but the best thing we can do is stay abreast of what's happening, stay vigilant, number one. And number two is communication, the soft skills part. Work on it. It's not just about speaking English, but it's about understanding people, being empathetic, putting yourself in their shoes and understanding what is it for them that I can talk about, that I can get their interest. And I'm wishing you all the best. I hope we have a conversation again 5 years from now, and let's see where that goes. Thank you, Lavanya, once again. It's been great
Sure.
talking to you after such a long time.
Thank you, Rima.